Hello everyone. I've got my fancy headphones on today. I'm having some issues with my audio, so I'm going to mute while we wait because there's just some background noise happening, and it's not my headphones and it's not I think it's my phone, tech issues, but I'm going to mute until Laura gets on here and while you all join. Hello. All right, I'm going to actually unmute. And if there's a lot of background noise and anyone's listening and that's just auditorily overwhelming, just let me know in the chat if you hear the background noise, and I'll be sure to mute anytime that Laura's talking throughout this. But yeah, this morning we've got Laura from Good Dog Canine Services, or Good Dog Service Canines. So I'm stoked to have her. And here she is.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, friend.
How are you?
I'm great. This is so exciting.
I know. Technology, right?
Yeah, I've never done this. I'm amazed that you've got this figured out. All I had to do was sit here with my mug and wait for you.
Yes, let's see your mug. What do you got today?
I took Rick's. It's a California surf mug. I love you, California. So
Oh, it's
I
nice and
just liked
sturdy.
it. Yeah,
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 I love me
yeah.
a good mug, hence the name. I, for very appropriate today, have this one. And on the
Oh,
back, well, that's, yeah, me, my dog Puddles, and my husband. And then anything is possible. How appropriate
oh.
for today.
Yes, anything is possible. That's so cute. I was wondering, I wonder if Erin has an obsession for mugs, and so she has decided to do this so she can write off the purchase of every mug she buys.
I didn't think of that, but maybe I should. It's funny. We have this policy now. Anytime I buy a new mug, I have to get rid of an old one that's like starting to chip or something. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
a
We
process.
we recently did a purge of mugs too. Yeah, they're just so great.
I love it. Before you were getting on, I was sharing that I'm having some like audio issues. I can't tell if it's my headphones or my phone. Can you hear me okay though?
Beautifully. Yeah,
Smooth? Okay,
yeah. Yep.
cool. If anyone that's listening, if there's like weird background noise, just comment and I'll be sure to mute myself so it's not distracting. But I say let's just get rocking and rolling.
Yay.
Um, so as I think people that are logging on for multiple mugs and mornings, I have my questions over here, so I'm just going to pop back and forth. But why don't you start by just telling us about yourself and how you're connected to the neurodiversity community, both personally and professionally?
Sure. First, I have to say hi, Levi and Ella and Mariah. I see you guys here. That's so sweet. So my son Elliot is 23, autistic, non-speaking speller, and we got him a service dog when he was 10. So that's how I'm belong to the neurodivergent community, and also how Good Dog came to be.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. How long has Good Dog been around?
My gosh, 13 years.
Oh, wow.
So I always tell people it was an incredibly serendipitous journey. We got invited to a friend of ours' graduation of their service dog. And from that moment on, things just came at us. It's like we couldn't ignore it. There were so many serendipitous things that happened. And when I looked back after we got Orbit and we had Orbit for a while, I looked back. He's saying hi. When I look back, I realized that if you're into numerology, this will be really cool for you. If you're not, sorry. But Orbit came home to us on March 2011, when he was 11 months old, in the year that Elliot turned 11. So ones are new beginnings.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it till we had started Good Dog. And it was a couple years later that all that lined up. But it's pretty apropos for the journey that we had.
Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. Hold on. Give me 1 second. I'll co-regulate with him.
I love it. I guess I could talk. I just don't know what to say. We're used to having dogs in the background of all of our meetings and all of our Zooms. It's just normal for us.
Thanks for filling the
Yeah,
space. You know what?
yeah.
It never fails. He's always so quiet when I'm working. He's outside now, but he's always like my co-regulation partner. And almost the past 3 mugs and mornings, there's been like a delivery or something that he goes wild for. So
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but
No worries.
yes,
We're used to it.
yeah, I know what a perfect one for a dog to be barking in the background. But yeah, I didn't know that about all the ones and the synchronicity of that. So that's really beautiful.
Thank
So
you.
thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Let's kind of just jump into sharing information about what you guys do. The first question, or I guess a lot of questions that I get as an OT is, how do we know if we're a good fit or that we need a service dog or that we can benefit from it?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the first thing I'll say that I think a lot of people don't realize, those of you who have good dogs and service dogs on this call, I know you know, but it takes a very deep commitment, responsibility, and time and energy to have a service dog that works well for you. So where some families mistakenly think it's a good idea is if they are overwhelmed in their life and they think that the dog can help entertain the child, watch the child, take care of the child, like that you're almost hiring a nanny, like some help. And although the dog helps very much, eventually the first 6 months to a year is a lot of work. So if you're overwhelmed, and we're an autism family, I get it. There are times when we are really overwhelmed. It's not necessarily a good fit because you do have to put in a lot of time and energy, especially in the beginning. And then I think that, we have on our website a list of benefits. So let me actually say this. So we started as autism service dogs, and we realized that we could actually, our dogs, exactly how we train them for autism, could actually benefit other disabilities, Down syndrome, ADHD, apraxia, other things. So in 2020, we switched from being good dog autism companions to good dog service canines. And we did that because we wanted to be able to help more families. And we had some instrumental families who had dual diagnosis, and that kind of pushed us in this, the dogs are perfect just as they are, just offer them more. So what I believe as an autism parent, as Elliot's mom, is that we know our kids best. So if you go to our website and you list the benefits learn about the tasks that our dogs do. Hi, Michelle. Then you will be able to tell if the dogs will help, right? Because the dog, like Liv's dog, helps her with her sibs, but I have to remember which families are public so that I can share their information. But Calder's person, that dog is helping her go to college. So, and for each family, those are incredibly significant things. But as you can see, the range is really wide. So I always say, read the benefits, read what the dogs can do, and you'll actually know best. Mm-hmm. The only thing that is not a fit is people who are overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. And then maybe kids that are really afraid of dogs, right? You don't want to stress the kid out and the dog out. And then if kids have dysregulation that is outwardly focused and the dog could actually accidentally get hurt, our application review committee is really gingerly goes through that to make sure that we're keeping all of our dogs safe, because unlike you who chose this profession, dogs didn't choose this profession. So it's our job to watch out for them as well.
Mm. Yeah, I like that it's both sided, right? You're thinking of everyone's well-being. And I do think a lot of families will look at a service dog as exactly that. Like, I just need the service dog to come in and help be like extra hands almost. Mm-hmm. So I love the transparency of, like, you could be out there as a business saying, here, yeah, sure, take it. But you're like, no, you know what? This actually isn't going to be helpful. That intention there is super, like, just in alignment with who you are. So
thank you.
Yeah, of course. There was something you said in there, the list. Oh, is the list just on your main website, or is it just
Yeah,
where
under
people can
Get a
find it?
Dog, I'll whip it
Okay.
up, but under Get a
Yep.
Dog,
Oh, I see.
then there are benefits of a service dog. It's the second tab.
Okay.
And that's really where you want to read. And then I'll just do this now since we're
Yeah.
there. At the very bottom of the Get a Dog page is a sign up for free chat. So any family, we are a very, I'm going to take a detour. You can sign up for a free chat and get, I always do this. I talk in tangents. I'm sorry, but
Fine.
sign up for a free chat and you can talk to Amanda, our client services person, in a group and get all your questions answered. So we are not a company that requires application first. We actually want to engage with you first. So that's on there. The reason we offered the free chat is because, one, we're an autism family and we had so many questions, we wanted them answered when we started on this journey. But two, we're a small company. We place 5 to 10 dogs a year. If you compare that to the other service dog organization that is also teams of 3, meaning parent, dog, and child, they place 100 dogs a year. So we are very small. As Mariah said at her graduation, we're like sitting around a family kitchen table, which was the biggest compliment. I just loved that.
Yeah.
But you have to decide what agency, what kind of experience you want. But wait, why did I bring that up?
Looking through the benefits, setting
Oh,
up a call.
we offer the free chat so we can help more families than just the 5 to 10 per year.
Got
Right.
it, yep.
That it's just another service that we offer, mostly because we're autism parents and we know how hard it can be to get questions answered. So we do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I mean, there's something, again, so huge. And like, I find myself doing it too on intro calls for my services, right? Of like, I'm just going to share the information. Why am I going to hold it back or like wait for an intake or an application or anything like that? It's the more of an impact we can make and the more information we can share helps the individuals. And then it also helps you, right? Because you've given all the information. They're well informed when they do come to
Yeah.
you, if they decide that's, the path. So,
And we never think of our application process as a accept, reject. We think of it as a fit. It's our job to tell you about us so you can decide if we're the right fit for you.
yeah.
And we always have really looked at it that way. It's not accept and deny. I see a puppy raiser. Sooner the losers. Hi. Sorry, I
Love
just
it.
can't help it.
Well, wait, tell me, what's a puppy raiser?
Oh, well, it's we have volunteer puppy raisers who raise puppies. It's pretty industry wide. But for us, you have to have a trainer in your area. We're structured a little differently. We're a virtual organization, so our trainers live across the country. It's kind of nice because the dogs don't grow up in a kennel situation. They grow up in homes. But if you have a puppy raiser area lead in your area, then you can raise a puppy. And then it gets turned over to a trainer.
Okay. Yeah, because I mean, I know you and I have chatted. I just think there's always so much to chat about when we see each other, but about like, I want to get more involved. And I think even if you, don't have a child right now or whatever it is, there's so many ways to get involved in training and volunteering. And I know you have a whole tab on there too, get involved. So
Yeah.
anyone that's on here, definitely check it out. So I love the tangents too. That's how my brain works. That's why I have the questions. Otherwise, we'd just be like this for like hours. Oh man. All right,
I see
cool. So
Mrs. Martin.
hello,
I
hello.
always feel so incredible when people show up.
I
Like
know.
we
I
have
know.
this. Okay, can I tell a
Of
story?
course.
We have this thing we do every year. It's one of my favorite things. I learned about it at an ADI conference, and it's called a Thankathon. And we thank our recurring donors by families writing them cards about the impact of their dog. And every year when we reach out to all our families and we say, are you willing to write cards? So many of them jump up. Yes, I'll write one. That almost every time I cry because it's just so incredible to me that with their lives. I know what their lives are like. I live it. They are very limited on time and they just jump up and volunteer. And it means so much to our donors. So
Yeah.
I'm just always amazed at the tenacity and commitment of our families.
Yeah, of the community. And I've seen that Thankathon. I remember reading through some of the stories and I loved it, getting to learn about the impact that's happening.
Yeah.
So that's great. All right, cool. The next question I have is, I guess after that call and a family is deciding they want to move forward, How do you match the dog with the individual that is in need? Do they get to suggest or assist in the training if their family has any specific needs? Tell us more about that process.
Yeah, it's actually one of the big serendipities of Good Dog, and matching is one of my, both Amanda and I just, it's just one of our most favorite things. One of the reasons it's my favorite thing is that I don't decide which families on our wait list get the dog. It is not up to me, because if that was up to me, I couldn't do this job. My heartstrings just couldn't take it, right? But in the very beginning, we got serendipitously connected to Bonnie Bergen, and Bonnie Bergen is really the creator of the service dog. She created the concept. There was guide dogs for the blind, but there was no service dogs, and she developed that. She started CCI, and then she left CCI and started a university, and it's actually Bergen University of Canine Studies, and it is the only accredited university in the world that studies human canine things and service dogs and all that. So we got connected with her, and she shared with us how the information that she's developed a program for matching service dog to handler. And it is adapted Wilson personality. And basically, and there's a blog on this on our website too, so I'll try not to go into too much detail. I get a little geeked out on this because I love it so much. So our matching process is like a Olympic 3-step podium, like Olympic podium. The very first place is the parent. Sorry, we know you want it to be your child, but it has to be you, because you have to be the benevolent leader of the dog. You have to be matched properly to the dog. And that's where we use Bonnie's incredible system and match which dogs are good for which handler. Then we go to the next step, which is the child, and we do a form intake and an interview intake with the parents. We get all this information from about the child, their energy level, their stamina level. What do they like? What do they not like? Do they want a social dog? Do they want a not social dog? Will they interact with the dog right away, or will they take some time to interact with the dog? Will a dog still be interested in them if they don't interact with it right away, right? So there's a lot that goes into it. Then once we've got those pairs, then we move to the third tier, which is family environment. And that can be anything like family size, where you live. Like if you live on a farm, then we have to match you with a dog that's okay with livestock, right? So those 3 tiers. So they definitely, and then after that, once families are matched, then we have what we call as a pack meeting. And at the pack meeting is where we discuss any custom training that needs to be done. And so that was long-winded, but I love the matching process.
Yes, it's so thorough and so important. You know, it's not from an OT's perspective. When families ask me this, I'm just thinking of what can the dog be providing? You know, I'm so like tunnel visioned in terms of like the therapeutic aspect of it. Whereas like you need to consider the environment and the handler and personalities and all of that. So yeah.
I will say though, when I used to do reference calls, now Amanda does them. When I had a reference call with an OT, it was always my favorite because they understood the proprioceptive and vestibular and tactile input and how that works. You know, I love to tell the story about, well, if you play tug with a dog, what are you doing? Oh, that's proprioceptive. But do you really just tug like this, or do you go like this? Oh yeah, and that's vestibular. Like, and I just loved the OTs were my favorite references because they got so excited about it.
I know. I'm an OT and like an animal lover. Like I'm the person that my dogs and cats are my fur babies. Like it's the mesh of the two. And it's funny, I don't know if I ever told you, but Puddle's the one that was just barking so well trained. I did have intentions of making him a therapy dog, and time just went by too fast and I didn't do it. But it is so amazing for me how he regulates me. And also the opposite. Like if I'm dysregulated, sometimes he'll start whining before I even notice. Like he'll give me cues of like, oh crap, like my shoulders are tense or I'm getting anxious. I'm like, oh, thanks, dude. Thanks for letting me know.
That's called the energy travels down the leash. Yeah. And it is something we have to, that parent handlers have to watch for all the time. Like during team training, when they're learning, we're like, how are you feeling? Yeah. Because you can just look at the dog and know. Yeah. So that's why also if you're life is overwhelmed and you're overwhelmed, it's going to be very hard for you and the dog to, you know, make this journey successful for the whole team.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. Yeah, even when I did training with when he was a puppy, the trainer was like, I need to work on you, not on him. And I was like, hey, you know, but it's true, right? Like,
Yeah.
just like everything else, we're all interconnected.
Yeah.
So
Rick, my husband, is the director of education and support.
Okay.
And so he supports the families and teaches the families. And I am always so grateful that he does that job, because it's too hard for me. It just pulls on my heartstrings so much, because learning, you know, you can totally relate to this. When they get that leash in their hand, everything's new. Like, this is a motor plan that they have never done before. And their emotions are heightened. They want to love the dog. They want to connect to the dog. And now they have this motor plan. Remember when you learned to drive a car? All those steps, that's what you have to do. Oh, leash in the right hand, leash in the right, lift at the thing, pull. Okay, say this, move this way. It's a lot.
Yeah, and I'm sure the pressure that they put on themselves because they want it to be successful for their child, it's so multi-layered. So
always the number one advice from grads, people who have graduated, is to the newbies, is give yourself grace.
Yeah,
it takes time.
Yeah, with everything. But yeah, especially something that you are like working towards for, you know, a loved one. So
well, yeah, when it's for your kid, you put so much pressure on yourself to make it. You know, we just do. That's just what we do as parents.
Yeah, definitely. It's all for love, all from love.
Yes, it's all for love. Love like a good dog. There you go. It's all for love.
All for love. Oh man. Okay, so clearly you're super knowledgeable in the field. I'd love for you to share. You touched on kind of the industry's past and how other providers have will get a lot of dogs out there, but give us all your candid thoughts and input on the field as a whole, you know, the industry as a whole.
Yeah, you know, I didn't realize how hard, if I would have known how hard this was going to be, I would have never started this. But luckily, I had no idea, and I had to learn as I went. So Rick and I just went, okay, this river just keeps butting into us. What are we going to do? And we jumped. And so we learned as we went. And thank goodness, because it's way more involved, way more complicated than I ever imagined. We are very proud that we are an Assistance Dog International accredited member. It takes 2 years of being just being a candidate. Someone said, good thing you didn't know. Good. That's what I always say. Good thing I didn't know. But you have to be a candidate for 2 years. The amount of paperwork, luckily the year we become accredited was the first year they took digital files. But before that, it was 4 3-inch binders. That's how much data you had to send to them to be accredited. And as a small organization, we had a wonderful associate director at the time, Laura Douglas, and she really, really helped with this process. Incredibly grateful to her. But the reason we thought it was important was because through those free chats that we had, so many families called and were in horrible situations where they had hired a private trainer who bought a dog, who got in over their head. Organizations started by people with good intentions, and then they just couldn't follow through. And it's so hard for me when those families, Mariah was one of them. Hopefully that's okay, Mariah, that I just shared that. But she called me, she's like, we've been waiting for a dog for 2 years. And now I'm like, okay, and you have to wait 2 to 3 more because, you know, but that's also why we do the free chat. You have to really be careful. If you choose an accredited or accredited or candidate member of Assistance Dog International, you're good to go. If you choose anyone else, just be super careful. Just be super careful. One of the things I like, you know, people train their own dogs. We have friends who have trained their own service dogs, and it's totally doable. It's just a lot of work, and you have to, you know, figure out what you're doing on your own. I always tell people, you know, our families are required to fundraise. That's the only way we can financially, you know, they don't have to fundraise, but they have to pay or fundraise, right? That's the only way we can fund the program. We just don't have enough resources to have somebody out there full-time raising money. And so they do. But there are a lot of local organizations that provide dogs for free. So I'm always telling people, start there. Like, the reason Good Dog exists is because we applied for a dog from Canine Companions for Independence. They changed their name. I think they're Canine Companions now. Anyway, we applied it for there, and Elliot got denied. We got denied. That's why Good Dog exists. I always say thanks, CCI. But they do provide dogs for free. So does Tender Loving Canines, now part of Guide Dogs for America in Southern California. Always go to the ADI website and look up if there's usually free dogs come with a territory. They provide dogs in Southern California, or Blue Path in New York, and they have a perimeter. We provide dogs across the country, so it's harder to get regional funds, but always start there. And I kind of went on a tangent, but did I answer your question?
Yeah, because I honestly didn't know about the certification process, right? And like, I think about when I'm like looking for different courses, I'm looking for certain accreditations and things, so it's the same concept of your experience and your training. And I also didn't think about locally versus globally. Like, I don't even think I guess I did know through reading those stories that you were across the US, but I feel like the more like centrally local or more local ones, I don't even really know about. Like, I just think of you guys, and you said another name in there that Tender something is like.
Yeah.
Which is that one?
Tender Loving Canines.
Yeah.
They were, we actually, when we were looking for a dog for Elliot, we reached out to them. And at the time they were all volunteer, and they placed like 2 dogs a year or something. And they had like 24 applications a month. I'm like, well, those are not the kind of odds I'm interested in. I better go someplace else. That's just my personality.
Yeah.
I'm not like,
but you wouldn't know that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But now they got, they merged with Guide Dogs of America.
Okay.
And they still provide autism service dogs in, I think, Southern and Northern California. Okay. So, but a lot of times what will happen if you go to an organization like that is they'll take your application and they'll say, yes, we will get you a dog, but they won't give you a timeline or anything because it's free. They're going to give you the dog when it comes. Like, I wish we could do that, but I, as a client, couldn't handle that. So our families are updated and know when they should be matched, when they should be getting their dog. It's just a different experience. It's really important to figure out what you need as a family.
Yeah. That makes me think a little bit about even like the way I'm set up for my OT services, right? Like, there's just different tiers of, or I don't know if I want to even label them as tiers, but just different avenues, right? Like, you could call your insurance company and get hooked up with an OT and be smooth sailing, right? Or you could kind of seek out your own information, wait a little bit longer, do things a little differently with a smaller business and get services in your home or in the community, so it is, I think that's within any realm of business, like service work is, just putting your feelers out there, gathering the information, like you said, like just calling, getting the information, and then crossing that one off your list if the odds seem like you're never going to get a service dog, right? And then I also believe heavily in like just connecting with people before you start anything with them that's service-based, right? So I love those calls and just feeling, right? How's the conversation feel? Do you feel comfortable there? Are they using similar language that you would use? Or are we kind of on the same brainwave there?
Yeah, right. Well, and then another consideration, just to throw it out there, is how the dogs are trained. Because currently, it's going to change over, but there are assistance dogs, international accredited members, who are still using, pinch collars and choke chains and, what we call, leash correction. And that's still out there. And we don't do that, but other people do. And you just need to know the pros and the cons of that, right? We don't do it because we're dog lovers and because Bonnie was our mentor and Bonnie doesn't believe in it. But also my son, Elliot, is incredibly intuitive to your intentions, to the people who work with him, because you've worked with him. He knows what your intention is, if it's pure or not. And if the dog is doing its work because the fear section of his brain is activated, that's not sincere partnership or service. So that was my whole thing when I learned about it. It took us a while to learn about it. I'm like, well, Elliot would never, that wouldn't go. That wouldn't go, you know? But it makes it so when we hand over our dogs to families, you know, Mariah says, Ella, sit. And then Ella looks over at its trainer and go, do I listen to her? Because they don't know each other yet, right? And so the trainer actually turns their back, goes, yes, that's your new person, turns their back, turns their pheromones off. It's literally a process. And so that they can bond and they can have a relationship. And so it takes longer than if the fear section of your brain is activated when you hear a command. You just do it. So you have to, there's a lot to it to figure out what is the best match for you as a family.
Yeah. Oof, I love that. I could go off on a whole nother tangent of like neurology and nervous system and all of that. So yeah.
Oh yeah, you know more than I do. That's my little bit of
beautifully
knowledge.
Encapsulated. Yeah. Yeah. And I met Ella too, I believe. And it was really interesting for me because again, as a dog person, I'm like, can I pet her? Like, what do I need to do? And I just like sat back and watched like how in tune she was with the family, and it was so amazing.
Yeah.
You know, I think you guys, am I wrong that were you training a little bit when we were together up in Idlewild? Did I see some of that?
Yeah, well, we went to Speller's Camp in Idlewild. And so Ella's family was just there for camp. But the owners, or not the owners, but the executive directors of Idlewild Camp have a service dog, and we hadn't been able to do some follow-up with them. So when we were there for Speller's Camp, Rick worked with them a little bit because the executive directors of Idlewild's family has good dog Luca. So So you're right. You saw Ella at camp with Ella's family, and then we were working with Luca a little bit because we hadn't seen them in a while.
Yeah, and that little segment of time really sticks out in my mind about like just watching Rick and how calm he was. I was honestly watching for my own training with my dog, you know, like and just the way he was like interacting with her and just the thought and intention that went behind it, you know. So
that's why really he does that job and not me. I'm the forward, get it done person. And he's the calm, let's see what's happening here. Let's figure out how everybody's feeling, you know. So why I'm so grateful to him that he does the family education and support, because it is not my wheelhouse for sure. You know?
It seems like it just comes naturally for him. So that's awesome.
It does. Yeah.
And that's why you guys keep getting, you know, brought into this world. It's a good mix between the two of you.
We're very lucky.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. We're getting to our last two questions. Before I ask like my questions about Sunrise and Rising and Shine, is there anything you want to add about Good Dog that we didn't touch on?
No, I feel like we did a pretty good overview.
Okay.
I can't think of
and
any.
The website is so beautifully made and easy to navigate. So we'll definitely
thank you.
Yeah,
well, the industry that Rick and I were in before we jumped into the river of Good Dog was branding and design, and so we still dabble in that. But yeah, so thank you. That means a lot.
Of course. All right. So I have in here as a founder and executive director of the organization, a mom, a wife, a friend, all the things that you do. I'm sure you're really busy, but with a grateful heart. I've been trying to reprogram busy to your life is very full, right? It's full of amazing things. So what allows you to rise and shine as your best self? How do you fill your cup?
Oh, that's such a good question. How do I fill my cup?
Your mug.
How do I fill my mug? You know, I'll admit I don't always rise as my best self.
Yeah.
The 19 through 23 age years have been, you know, our most difficult with our guy. So I think it's been the biggest challenge to rise as my best self in the last few years. But one of the things that Elliot taught me most of anyone is to change the way you look at things. You know, my favorite quote by Wayne Dyer is, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And that has been the biggest lesson that he has taught us. And And so I think remaining curious and open.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think it was the second time I ever met you. I asked you if you knew what your Enneagram number was, right? Like,
Yeah,
I think what helps me is acknowledging the fact that I'm a growth seeking being, that I want to learn and grow always. And so when I'm in that space, when I'm in a curious growth seeking place, not a judging, worrying, fearful place.
yeah, yeah.
I think that's when I'm my best.
Yeah.
I think that what helps me
Mindset.
be my best. Yeah, mindset. Because
Yeah.
one thing I'm a controlling person. Elliot is helping me with that in this journey. But truly what I've learned is the only thing I can control is what I decide to think about.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. So true.
It's
Yeah.
the only thing I have control over, period, is what the internal dialogue that's happening in here. And I don't always remember,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that's when I'm my best self, is when I do remember that.
Yeah. It's such an important aspect to highlight, because I do feel like a lot of times when I ask that question, I get a lot of external things like I do yoga or I go to the beach or,
So I judge
or
myself for not doing those things
no,
more often.
no, but it is right. That change inward then changes our reality outward, right? Our perceptions create our reality. And it's so true. And it's very hard. I think we all can relate to that when you are in those more fearful, stressed, overwhelmed states, to kind of like break that and redirect it. There's something called to I forget what the saying is and who I forgot. It might be Tony Robbins, but like changing your physical state to change your mental state. So sometimes there's different things that I do if I'm feeling anxious. I literally will like snap my fingers. I've said this on another Mugs and Mornings too, and now I'm like, well, the world's gonna know when I'm snapping my fingers. I'm a little
Yeah, I'm gonna know now.
You're gonna
If
look
I
for
see
it.
you, I'm
Yeah.
like, what's up with you, Erin?
Yeah.
You're snapping your fingers.
I have a few that like are literally, I try to do something physical with my body to shift that,
Yeah.
like get out of that mental place to switch to a different mental place, because I find myself so many times being in that like doubt and fearful mindset, and then I'm moving a little more towards that open and comfortable, and then how quickly we get pulled back. So it's like you
Yeah.
do need to like have some kind of trigger,
Have you ever watched the Amy Cuddy YouTube?
No.
Sometimes Rick has our families watch that.
Okay.
And it's all about the actual change that happens in your body if you stand up tall. If
Oh yeah.
Ted Lasso, when she
Yeah.
when she does
Yeah.
that. So it's actually like Amy Cuddy studied that. So
Oh, I
a
gotta look
lot
that
of
up.
times Rick will have the families watch her. So, fake it
Yeah.
till you become it, right? Like
Yeah.
stand up tall,
That, yeah, power stance.
feel it,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Gratitude always helps shift the spiral or the cycle too. But sometimes that's hard. It's hard to get out of,
Yeah,
but that's usually
definitely.
my stop. Like,
Yeah.
what are you grateful for?
Yeah, that's your
That's
switch. Yeah, that's it.
now I'm gonna pair it with
We're
a
all gonna
snap
be
though.
snapping. I love it. Oh man. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I know that's something vulnerable, and I think I know a lot of people can relate to. I know it resonates with
Wow.
me. So
Thank you.
yeah. All right. The last question is just, we mentioned the website. Is there anywhere else that you are sharing your stories or information that people should follow you and join?
Instagram, we love Instagram. We share there a lot. And one of my favorite things about Instagram is that we have families who have pages or channels. What do we call them now? What are they?
Pages, I think.
Accounts.
Accounts. There you go.
Accounts. We have families who have accounts that is focused on just them and their dog. And I think that when families ask me what can I do to find to see if we're a fit for a service dog, if it will help us, I always say follow our Insta families, as I call them, the people who have accounts, so you can see the different ways that the families are utilizing the dog and how they are working through some things. It's super, like Lily, a friend for Lilybug, after they got their dog, her social media just skyrocketed. I can't
Wow.
believe how many, and now she has her own nonprofit. She's doing these amazing things. But, Lily wasn't interested in the dog in the beginning. She was kind of not afraid, but indifferent. And they were just so patient. And it took like a year for them to even like interact with each other. But now it's just a beautiful story. So I think if you're considering this, I would definitely follow the families who have our dogs. And they're all welcome for private messaging, and the families get to know each other and they become friends. And it's so cool to see, like, family in Florida just got a dog, and all these other good dogs sent supplies to her. And like, it's a really, really cool aspect of it. They really rely on each other and have created like this amazing community within the community.
Yeah, and that's important, right? It's so important to have those connections, especially when you're going through similar experiences. So
Yeah.
I love to hear that. Awesome. I will I'll try to see if I could tag any of those accounts too, and when this posts. And I think you'll automatically be tagged. I'll make sure to put as much information as I can in the caption, and we'll work out the logistics after that. But yeah, this was so fun. I feel like you and I could probably talk for hours.
I know. We have before, right? Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Erin. And thanks for all you do for the community. My gosh. She's at that thing, and then she's at that thing, and then she's at that thing. I'm like, gosh, we're so lucky. Here she is again.
Oh, thanks. I love it. That's what fills my cup. That's what makes me rise and shine.
I love that. I wanted to ask you, and I thought, well, I don't know if I should ask her. So thanks for
You'll
sharing.
catch me off guard. I'll just divulge information. All right. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. Tell everyone at home I said hello.
Please. I will.
All right.
You too. Bye. Bye, everybody.